Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Brightworks, where technical difficulties are the norm. As this is my third time trying to record this, oh boy, I'm excited to show it off to you. Today, we've got a game for you on Supreme Isthmus version 1.6.1. Let me show you that really quickly here. 1.6.1, we've seen a lot of cool changes, and I'll go over them one more time in case you're not quite familiar with the changes that have been made to this beloved map. Because today, we're going to be taking a look at another version of the support build. I showcased another support build a little while back there, and it was pretty interesting. A lot of people seemed super interested in it, and apparently, Glass is going to be cooking up one for us today. So I'll be paying attention to what our blue player, our blue team leader, in fact, with 39 true skill and silver bars to match, has got in the tank for us today. Spawning all the way across the map and representing the red team in the other backline position here, it's going to be Syphos, going for a Cortex Commander and into an Air Lab, basically the opposite of the support build. The air player is basically supposed to be as greedy as possible to make sure that there's enough air coverage to, make sure that you're always protecting your team, right? You want to keep your team happy, keep that mental up. It's a resource that we don't often talk about, but the mental health of your teammates is often something that, the air player can have a huge effect on. Nobody is happier than when the bombers headed straight towards their base get shot out of the sky by friendly fighters. Anyway, we do see a couple of rovers being pumped out here already by our frontline player for the blue team, JT Lane 16. Gonna be pumping out a couple of those rovers. We'd love to see those head on across the map here and try and get a little bit of a scout off, if not a little bit of damage here. Error 429 is still hanging around in the base, going for a vehicle start as well as an Armada commander. Actually, we are Armada for all four on the red team. Looks like, wow, okay, we do have a single Cortex player here, Katsuyo, but aside from that, we are Armada across the board here. This is going to be a very Armada-heavy engagement right here in the middle of the map. Rovers. Oh, I'm under the water. If you know the video that I'm referencing there, good for you. Otherwise, I maybe just sound a little bit racist. Anyways, Laughing here is getting a blitz out, and I wonder if that blitz is going to go across the field. It's kind of parking its way around in the middle of the map here. I don't hate it, especially if there were any res bots out here. Both teams probably about to scout each other eventually and realize that no res bots will be made here. Well, shy of Aphis Destroyer, who pumped out a res bot. The mid front lane. How do we classify this? We need to reclassify this. I said I was going to tell you about some of the new changes to this map, so why don't we go over those a little bit. Ooh. Luckily, this here scout plane won't be shot down by the missile corvette that went up right there. That's going to mean that the purple player does get a nice little scout off on the red team. Want to highlight that before we jump into some of the changes that were made to Supreme Isthmus. So one of them that we've already seen here is that both of these players, which used to spawn over here, well, maybe not right there, closer to like right here, I would say, have now been moved over, and you can see that all the metal extractors are over in this area. They also now have a beachhead geothermal spot right here. So back are the days when this player can go into some sort of quick T2 rush, right? You can go into that T2 with a very quick geothermal. It's going to be a very efficient energy source, meaning you don't have to put too much energy, or rather too much metal, into producing a whole lot of energy. You can build those energy converters as well, and then you can eat up your commander, your T1 labs, all that sort of stuff, and go for T2 very quickly. Oh, interesting. Chicken Lips already with the T2. Did we hand over a bunch of metal? Looks like it looks like Glass has been basically funding Chicken Lips' T2 right here. That makes a whole lot of sense. Oh, and indeed. Okay, so we see a bunch of windmills that were handed over to Chicken Lips. Interesting. Looks like Glass's commander is going to head over in that direction as well. Okay, interesting. So this is a little bit different of a support build, right? The last time we saw this, essentially what was happening was the player here that was going for the support build was essentially just ecoing and then intentionally overflowing a lot of resources. It looks like in this case, it's going to be a bit more active of a build, right? So we have Glass going around and upgrading people's metal extractors, looks like starting with Chicken Lips, and I'm imagining that's what this transport is for, in order to carry around some of these, or we'll carry around this T2 here and go pick up and deploy wherever needed, and upgrade some of those T2 metal extractors. Oh, nice little bombing run over here. I missed it, but you can see the scars of the windmills that it took out here. There's a big cluster of grouped up wind turbines right there. Bomber will be shut down. Oh, he gets another metal extractor for it. Okay, that's a very, very efficient bomber right there. Nicely done here by our red team player. Now, Laughing has a very aggressive position on the front line here. It's very nice for eating up all that metal, of course, but also it's going to deny this metal extractor, that 4.3 metal extractor, which is very valuable. You absolutely want to get that up and running as quickly as possible here, and, well, it's not really going to come up at all if you're having a laser pointer pointed directly at your metal extractor's face here. Yep, I like this quite a bit. I think being aggressive on the front line is absolutely the right way to go. Okay, yeah, so we do see the T2 metal extractors being built all over the place. Takes about a minute. It might be exactly a minute for a T2 constructor to just build a metal extractor all on its own. Oh, and we see the blue player setting the share slider all the way down as well. That's very nice to see. That is pretty cool. I agree with the spectators here. Wow, there's a lot of spectators. 18 spectators in this match. I agree with them. This is a really interesting strat. So this is a bit more hands-on, right? Typically with the support build, it was more of like a backline sort of thing, a subtle effect, if you will. This is much more hands-on. Oh, nice little shot from those Janices right there, trading back and forth here. Ooh, Arrow's got to be careful though. Commander definitely prone to falling to just a couple of volleys from those Janices. This is really cool. Okay, so we're seeing a new way to do the whole support build thing. T2 constructor getting these 4.1 metal extractors up and running as quick as possible, 4.3 rather, because yeah, they're going to be pulling back a whopping 17 metal per second for every second that they're up and running. That's going to mean that the green player has a tremendous economy right now. Yeah, gonna be going up to a just a ridiculous amount of metal per second here. Actually hitting a bit of an energy blockage here. Very nice. A little bit of a naval engagement over here. Torpedo launcher is going to help out quite a lot, and the Riptide is going to be enough to push these forces back here. Trying to kill that missile corvette because it is really low. I love the inclusion of that missile corvette. It allows your ships to fire away much further. You can see that this Riptide here has a much easier time firing into the distance because it can actually see thanks to this missile carrier. Something that I encourage all my Armada friends to go for is I mean, you don't need many, but at least one missile corvette included in your naval composition, going to give you the vision that you need in order to actually fire away at full range. Armada players as well, go for that skater. Skater or seeker? Can never remember. Either way, go for the anti-air boat. It'll give you a little bit more vision and it'll help your forces connect a little bit more securely. Oh, massive connection right there with those Janices trading back and forth, the blue and the maroon, both trading out as many of those forces as possible, as evenly as possible. I think slightly better engagement there for error, but also more forces for error, so that's pretty much always how that goes. Oh. Glass also conveniently right in the good location to D-gun those. He gets the D-gun off before swooping in with the transport. Nicely done. Okay, so once we've upgraded some of the metal extractors on the front line, we're going to retreat back here. I almost would have liked to see this metal extractor upgraded as well. I feel like that could have been well worth it, but either way, Glass is going to pull back and decide to unload at the back line, upgrading his own economy. I think that's probably a good idea, right? Help yourself before you help the others. Put your own life vest on before you put your friend's life vest on. That's kind of what you have to balance here, right? How much do you help on the front versus how much do you just go ahead and upgrade yourself so that you can pump out more and more units. At this point, though, Chicken Lips has a wonderful economy and is now pumping out a whole bunch of Mauser, and I think those are a great decision here. The Mauser are super valuable because they're not very expensive, so you can build them up pretty quickly. They pack a wallop, as we've seen over and over, time and time again, and they also are fairly mobile, right? They can move around with enough speed that they can kind of keep up with some of those T1 forces. They're still relatively slow, but fairly mobile, right? Not like more mobile than a Mammoth or Pulsars or well, not Pulsars, Starlights. That's the one I'm thinking of. These bad boys. That being said, I wouldn't mind seeing a Starlight on the front, but with 600 energy per second, you're actually going to really tax your economy to try and build one. So not the end of the world not to go for one of those. Oh, nice hits from the Janices right there, slowing down a lot of those tanks. Yep, another big Janus connection. Very nice. And now those Mauser are starting to fire away. Full-blown tank warfare here in the middle of the map. It's always a bit of a risky one, right? It's the naval of the land. As awkward of a phrase that is, I think you take my meaning, right? It's very, you lose your entire army and then suddenly the balance shifts very quickly against your favor. That's what the commanders are here for. The commanders are absolutely meant to balance that engagement out. So if you lose your whole army, at the very least, you might be able to D-gun down theirs. But still, it does mean that you're going to have a very difficult time if you suddenly lose your entire army to, say, a couple of Janices that get a really good connection, and then you're left with just your artillery pieces shelling away in the backline. But talk about shelling away in the backline. These Shell Shocker here have done a great job. Looks like a Polygon's commander narrowly avoided the forces of the green player here, Troll Hard Go Pro. There's another engagement down south here. Dark Clone trying to keep his forces alive. He does have the Destroyer as well, which is quite nice. going to allow for some of that long-range firepower, but it looks like Pillow has just built theirs as well. Pillow has the radar tower for some of that vision. Meanwhile, Darklone has the missile corvettes for some of that vision. So both players have the vision. They just need to utilize it. Oh, well, there goes the radar. And suddenly, I think the advantage goes towards Darklone. I also like the commander up here to repair. That's quite nice. Wouldn't mind seeing a constructor come up here to build a floating construction tower. Oftentimes, that can be very, very valuable. Just to try and patch up some of those boats, make them a little bit more survivable. But we can see the metal advantage is slowly but surely pressing itself onto the front lines here. These T2 metal extractors have come up, and denying this metal extractor is quite nice, but with these two metal extractors churning metal out from Laughing's economy, you can see he's up to 43 metal per second against his opponent here, Bearded Coder, who is on 22. Nearly double the economy right now, not to mention all the T2 Mauser support that's coming out of the backline. Do we have an endgame solution? Looks like we're mostly just going for raw eco over here for Jordan. Red player is just all air, so we are looking at, well, there's a dead commander right here. I'm guessing that's going to be eaten up for T2. Transitions right about now. We do have a T2 lab up and running here. And there were T2 constructors handed out as well. Looks like Error 429 did have a T2 constructor handed over, right? Yeah. Error 429 got the T2 constructor, but didn't manage to pull it over to their base. We've got this one, which might have been transported or something because it's AFK right here. All across the red team, people have the T2s, they're just not utilizing them. That's always a bummer. It's an easy thing for us to notice here as spectators, right? But oftentimes it's very easy to forget about that when you're actually playing in the heat of the moment. I'm liking this naval engagement more and more for Pillow the longer this goes on here. Remember that Darklone's forces have to travel all the way across the ocean to get over here, so the defender's advantage is heavily in Pillow's favor. I think we need to pull some of these ships back that are a little bit injured here. We also need to go for some build power. Wouldn't mind seeing a constructor out. Oh, there's a constructor. Yeah, we need to get some construction turrets working on this bad boy. And that being said, Pillow's economy isn't phenomenal right now. It is being upgraded, though, so we do see those T2 metal extractors coming online, and every one of those that comes online is just going to be more and more metal for the Seafoam player there. Meanwhile, the orange player does not have T2. This is a huge blunder, actually. Yeah, I think if anything, the biggest advantage right now for the blue team is just that T2 propagation. I talk about that a lot, but basically just getting your team up to T2 economies as quickly as possible. That's why I really like that early T2 metal extractor push right here. The hardest spot, of course, is going to be the front line. That's where all the fighting is happening. So upgrading your frontline fighters T2 metal extractors really makes sense. Like, you're essentially guaranteeing yourself enough time to go for some sort of strategy. Even if it delays your overall economy, it still eventually guarantees you some sort of an advantage here. Yep, we see T2 metal extractors here. We see T2 metal extractors basically all over the place for the blue team. And yeah, I mean, it reflects right now, right? We have about 310-ish metal per second coming in for the blue team, as opposed to about 270 for the red team. And I feel like that advantage is only going to express itself further the longer that the red team goes without any of those T2 metal extractors all over the place. Slowly getting them up here, but the propagation is just way behind. Yeah, no T2 over here for the C-lane player either. That's actually a really big problem. The C-lane player definitely needs to get up to T2 as quickly as possible. It's really important because it helps them transition into T2 a lot quicker, and with if your base isn't super stable over on this side, oftentimes it can be a tremendous help to have those extra units out on the field. Advanced Geo was built here. Oh, we do have bombers building. Yep, I was gonna say, that's a prime target for a bombing. And it looks like Cyphos agrees here. Gonna send the bombers out into the ocean, try and keep those in a bit of a safer space. There is a nice little air force here. Well, a nice large air force here for Timco Bob. Doing a great job of keeping air up in the air. Keeping planes up in the air, rather. Going Cortex, but got a T2 Armada constructor. I'd love to see a T2 Cortex constructor out for that slightly cheaper economy. Looks like the bombers do have their target. And indeed, they are going to go for that AGO. Yeah, that scouting plane just a minute ago was really, really nice because it did find that advanced geo coming up, and I think this is exactly what we're looking for here. Oh, this is going to do so much damage. This is such a no-no. Yeah, I definitely think a Prude might have been the right idea here. There goes that advanced geo. Takes out all the bombers, but it also takes out the main facilities for the green player there. That really hurts. Gonna set Laughing back a step for sure. Going to ensure that, at the very least, the only T2 production is coming out of this Hound up on the front line. It's good that we have this, though, because at the very least that Hound can, or that console, rather, can produce Hounds. It can produce Gunslingers. It can produce Webers, or recluses rather. I forgot it could produce those. Pawns even. I didn't know it could produce pawns either. Boy, that guy can just produce everything, huh? There's been a, speaking of producing everything, there's been a bit of a discussion about balancing the console. Apparently it's been an extremely prominent meta using the Hound in all the Hound in all the glitters and, well, basically on any map. Using it to pump out a whole bunch of hounds really early on, get those T2 hounds out on the field. And so there's been talks about trying to nerf it actually and make it so that it only produces welders instead of the hounds. Interesting. The welder is significantly worse than the hound. I would rather have a bunch of hounds rather than a bunch of welders, basically any time. But I can understand if it's just a little bit too strong and it might need a nerf, then maybe we're due for an adjustment here anytime soon. I've talked about this before, but how fortunate are we that we get to experience a game where the developers are just an active part of the community, right? And you get immediate feedback from them why they aren't thinking of balancing things in certain ways. Big naval engagement right here. Oh, interesting. Okay, so Darklone decided to go for a T2 lab here. We really need to start pumping out T2 units. Get some Buccaneers out, maybe even get a Despot out. If you can get a Despot out, I would call this a surefire naval victory here. You just need to take down this T1 army, eat up that metal, and turn it into T2, and then you're going to have enough pushing power to crush Pillow. Ooh, Glass even helping out with the production in the naval theater there. Quite nice. Man, these ambassadors laying down the law right now. Yeah, these things are pretty dangerous. I got to give it to them. I underestimate the ambassador. Maybe I need to take a revised look at this bad boy. It would appear that that thing is pretty damn strong. Able to blast down most of these things with just a single hit. Well, the ticks are distracting. Oh, big old bombing run headed up north here. It is spotted, and so the purple forces are going to move in here. Important that these fighters engage the bombers more than the fighters, but this is really nice air control by Siphos. Keeping the fighters right on top of the bombers, making sure that the bombers have maximum coverage right now. I think the red fighters are eventually going to be cleaned up. Oh, actually they will not. The red fighters do win that engagement. All right, gauge that a little wrong. So hard to tell sometimes. However, these bombers, well, I guess they're going to get those wind turbines. That's quite nice. Probably not the juiciest connection in the world, but they are going to be pushing further back into Timko Bob's base. He does have T2 fighters coming out now. And that's quite nice. Those are going to be a little bit more survivable, a little bit better. Oh, but those bombers do manage to take out all the build power. You take out the air player with your air, and it means that you suddenly have a lot of control over that area. Yeah. Bomber's going to come in on this perfectly unspaced wind turbine field, chain reacting that in both directions right there. A rope burning from the middle out. How ironic. Flak turret over here will eventually clean all this up, I do believe. Yep, that T2 flak pretty good against those T1 bombers. Down go the bombers, but that is a huge amount of damage to the purple player there. Gonna need quite a lot of work in order to rebuild the economy on that purple side. Oh, hounds idling here. That's not good. There they go. They finally moved, but they've already been whittled down to very, very few numbers. This was kind of the comeback mechanic that the pink player on the red team was hoping for. Really expecting a lot more out of these hounds, but they just got blasted apart in a really inefficient trade right there. Not even a trade, really, just a slaughter. And yeah, I mean, that's going to be pretty much the pink player forced to retreat off here, the light pink player anyways. Bearded Coder has gone for a T2 lab and is getting up to those advanced solar panels here. Got to eat these two up in order for me to commend you properly. But at the very least, getting those T2 units out on the field is going to be quite nice. Oh, looks like there was a big naval engagement over here. This res sub, though, doing overtime, making sure to eat up as much of this metal as possible. There's a torpedo launcher coming up, though. That's quite funny. We need to shut that down. The Seafoam player needs to shut that torpedo launcher down, otherwise the res sub's gonna die. Oh, okay, it will be shut down, thank goodness. That submarine was sweating bullets right there. Looks like these constructors here are just going to try and eat up whatever they can, but they will fall as well to the Riptides. Man, those Riptides are powerful. Oh, pardon me for 1 second. Sorry about that. I had to go deal with some outside issues. Anyways, where were we? Oh, an interesting little naval engagement down here. Clear the map real quick. Frigates engaging into these platypus here. Looks like the platypus are basically going to be dealt with, but that's a very annoying engagement, and also it means that we're now 2 versus 1 on the naval theater on the southern side of the map. That's going to be difficult for Pillow to keep up with. We're going to need to see a lot of res subs out here if we want to clear up this field and keep the T1 Navy growing. We do see a T2 constructor that was sent over here to eat up a lot of this, and that has a lot of build power, so it'll clean up this field a whole lot quicker than those res sub, well, singular res sub will. That being said, we're still not producing T2 units. I'm not sure why. A couple of Buccaneers would really help in this engagement, so I think that's what I'd like to see most out of Darkclone right now. As far as front lines go, there's a Rattlesnake that was built over here. That's quite nice. Very, very powerful static defense, capable of firing away at long range, forcing these Mauser backwards here. Mauser have a range of 940 versus the Rattlesnake's range of 1380, so well and away outranging any of those Mauser there, which is quite nice for making sure that that front line doesn't get pushed all too hard. We're going for a second one here as well to make sure that there's some sort of fortification available right now. Oh, yeah, I was gonna say these Ambassador, they're perfect for the job though. Yeah, the Rattlesnake is just on dumbfire mode. Mauser have a, or not Mauser, Ambassador have a stealthy condition, meaning that they don't appear on radar. So if you don't have line of sight of them, you're not gonna find them by radar. Oh, and now we see them firing away here. Oh my goodness, so much damage. Wow, I've really underestimated the Ambassador there. Shutting down those Rattlesnakes so efficiently. That was a brutal, brutal hit to Error 429 right there. Went for a huge investment on those frontline defenses, ate up the lab for it in order to build all of that, just for it to be blasted down by some of those stealthy rocket launchers. Very nicely done there by our blue player here, our powder blue player, Chicken Lips. Looks like we had some ducks incur over on this side over here. Yeah, oh, okay. We're gonna scuttle some of our boats over here, the yellow player, a Polygon. I mean, yeah, probably not a bad idea. You've been pushed out of the water at this point. You might as well just deny those resources to a Trollhard GoPro. So I guess I appreciate that a lot. Nicely done right there. A Despot is out as well to secure that naval victory. I think at this point, if I was the green player, I would stop investing in naval units and just go heavily into some sort of other form of unit production, right? Either transition to land, which does look like that's the idea here for Trollhard GoPro. You can also transition into air, right? Go for those seaplanes. Those are very powerful as well and can oftentimes snipe at the very least this geothermal, if not some of these bases over here on the sides of the map. Get a couple of anti-air ships underneath here, and then you have basically free cover to go all the way over there. Starlights are now out, and they're just blasting apart everything on the front line. Cutting things to pieces. Ribbons and shreds after that blue laser fires. It's just pure frigate play here for Pillow. I guess we found our niche. While not the most sophisticated composition, it certainly seems to be doing a decent job. But now the Buccaneers are out, and they're going to start taking a better trade against these. Yeah, from further away too, meaning that you're eventually going to trade positive here. So nice that we get to see a little bit of terrain though. That was so cool that we got to move the ships into this little choke point between these hills, and then we're kind of dodging them around. I really like it. I think it adds a lot of depth to the, no pun intended, but depth to the naval gameplay here. I like it quite a lot. It also just makes it look a little bit nicer, right? Fighting on the open blue sea is, you know, it's nice and all, the pirate's life and all of that, but yeah, I can't help but my landlubber instincts take over and make me crave the dirt and soil. Res Sub here is going to eat up most of these units for Darkclone, so that's going to essentially fund the transition here into a proper T2 Navy. Only 300 energy per second, that's because there's basically no land economy on the back of this. I would love to see a construction turret and a whole bunch of advanced solar panels, or even T2 production. That would really cement the orange player right now and make sure that the energy production stays on top of it. Glass going for some of these metal extractors over here as well. So this is a weird support build, right? It's not what we've seen before. It's just being helpful. that might sound a little ridiculous, very obvious, right? But oftentimes it's, you know, one of the biggest complaints that you hear when you're playing a game of bar is just that the backline has been AFK for 30 minutes, not really doing anything. This is just the opposite of that. This is just being helpful around the map, doing whatever you can to try and make sure that your allies are having a good time. And yeah, I mean, I'm all here for it. I think keeping your allies happy is one of the best ways to ensure a victory in this game, because, well, the happy ally is an effective ally. A couple of Jaguars here are getting jumped on by a bunch of these Shuriken. Oh, and they will be paralyzed. The Jaguars have anti-air, but it's not very powerful, and so the Shuriken will manage to stun all of them, meaning that the Marauder are going to run in here. Very nicely done. Okay. Yeah, when the Shuriken stun all these bulls over here, this Marauder are going to take a very nice trade against them. Well, I guess I should say. There we go. Fighter jumping on the shuriken. At the end of the day, not managing to paralyze all of those bulls, but still the Marauder taking a very, very nice trade against a lot of them there. Starlight's still very dangerous, though. And we're starting to get to those numbers where they can be dangerous to T3, too. Yep, you can see just a couple of flashes to burn down those T3 Marauder. Flak here going to shoot down the scouting plane. That's always good. Big array of scout planes, actually, have been sent out. A big ping sweep, as I like to call it. Sent across the map here to make sure that we're taking a look around and finding exactly what's going on. Very important scout, because it does reveal also that the blue player is going for duck production over here on this shore, meaning, of course, that eventually there will be some sort of two-pronged aggression over on this side of the map, which is very, very appreciatively scouted, right? The red team has to be glad to see that, I'm sure. At the very least, glad to be aware of that. Maybe not glad to see it, but glad to see it coming, maybe. Bunch of construction turrets, floating construction turrets have been built offshores here, and they're going to be quite helpful for keeping this despot up and alive, but also if we go for any kind of unit production. Maybe seaplanes over there. Those could do quite nicely. Hovercraft could work too. There's the floating hovercraft lab. Longbow, harassing everything over here. Already got the geothermal, so it's just kind of, you know, tickling away at the yellow forces, keeping that construction turret busy, making sure that everybody's doing their part. Yeah, these Starlight are just slowly but surely dismantling this front line. Very difficult to deal with because your options are essentially to back up, and you back up too far, they're going to be on your base. Or you can push in, and you know that if you push in, you're going to have to deal with all of their assault forces, as well as those Starlights firing on you for at least a couple of seconds. It's a tricky choice to make here. Looks like Bearded Coder is going to opt for backing off here, and I think a tick spam would be the ideal solution here. Maybe a pawn spam, a grunt spam, either one. The green pawn spam, very helpful for these Starlights, allowing them to fire away at, well, with 100% accuracy, right? They have that line of sight. Despot doing some lovely work over here as well, shutting down a whole bunch of those Marauder, rather, sorry. Gonna kill some wind turbines, sure, why not? Razorback is out, and that's quite nice for holding the front, especially against T1 spams. Essentially a perfect counter against T1 spams. You know what? Bearded Coder did manage to back off and stabilize here. I think Bearded Coder just needs some Starlights of his own. Yeah, I think one or two Starlights here defensively would do really, really nicely, especially in conjunction with the forces that are trickling out of the base of Aphis Destroyer. Whoa, massive turnaround in the naval field here. A huge batch of frigates has been saved up here. And I think all of that is just the T2 metal advantage, yeah. We can see there's just so much metal available here for the Seafoam Green player, as opposed to the orange player. Despite the orange player having a nice little naval presence and that T2 lab up and running, the T2 metal extractors are just barely coming online, and indeed, the T1 frigates, rather, are going to sweep through and save the day here. Yeah, this is looking depressing as the orange player is pushed out of the water here. There's a single long-range submarine. I think I'm gonna have to go back and bleep that out. It's a bit of a Freudian slip right there. The Thor is nice, and I appreciate that we're using the EMP missile. I'm not so sure that it's gonna be able to do it all on its own, though. There's a very aggressively positioned rattlesnake over here as well. I suppose I don't mind it, but it is very far forward there. These consoles are able to throw those up with relative efficiency. 2,500 metal, 17,000 energy. Certainly enough to fund a couple of those out of the wreckages here in this field, though. Do we have radar coverage over here? It doesn't look like it. I don't see an effective radar. Oh, there it is. It's right in front of me. I'm just blind. Chicken Lips does have a radar over here, so that's going to allow the rattlesnake to fire away. And hopefully do some work. Okay, so it looks like the dark green player, Trollhard GoPro, has decided to go into some hovercraft labs. I think those will be quite effective. At the very least, at getting, wasting the shots here of the Starlights. see them firing away at a lot of those goons, making their way up on the land here. Perfect opportunity for some of these units to push in and do a little bit of damage over here to all of these units that are distracted by those goons floating their way over towards Error 429's base. Uh-oh. The ducks are now free to march up onto land. Essentially nothing to contest them. Yep. They're just going to walk on into the base here of the orange player, blasting down whatever T2 economy had come up in time. Construction turrets desperately trying to eat things. Trying to salvage what Darklone can of this situation, but those ducks have now torn apart the last vestiges of an economy. And it's going to be a difficult uphill battle to get back into this game here for that orange commander. Oh, and there's the Sheldon waterfall right there. Wow. Blasting down that Thor in just a mere matter of moments with all that firepower. That is a heavy rain of death right there. Vanguard is out here, just spied that with the corner of my vision. Firing down on all of those Sheldon right there. They're firing back though. Yeah, you know what? Those Sheldon are firing back quite nicely. Okay. Taking down one of the Vanguard, that's quite nice. Very expensive, those Vanguards, so taking down a couple of them is certainly going to be a reward to the blue team here. And we can see that metal advantage expressed so thoroughly here now. 900-ish metal per second versus just about 600 for the red team. It's a significant advantage, especially over a decent amount of time here. At the very least, our tan player is finally amped up to full-blown T3 production with a T1 spam support center. We have the T1 labs pumping out units left, right, and center in order to get those units out on the field as quickly as possible. Juno is being sent all over the place. Mostly for mine clearing, I think. Not bad. And there's a capital ship out too. Ah, man. Every time I see a capital ship, I always... that 18,000 metal just soars through my mind. I'm never sure if that's... never sure if that price is worth what you can get out of it. Here it looks like we got basically a base kill with that 18,000 metal. Might have gotten 2. Yeah, it looks like we might have gotten 2 kills with it here. Malekith's forward windmills being ravaged a little bit as well, but still I wonder if maybe it was enough damage to justify that cost. You think about what else that could have been, right? It could have been a whole lot of T2 units walking up the shoreline over here. Although that being said, this is very well fortified on this line, so maybe not worth it on that side. I don't think it's going to matter, though. There's just too many starlights here. And indeed, it looks like the base of Bearded Coder is going to be blasted apart by these pencil-necked laser giraffes. That's what they kind of remind me of, as giraffes. Yeah, just firing away and blasting down basically everything over here. The T2 lab is down. The advanced metal extractors are down. Also killing this T3 up here. That's quite nice. Vanguard really hesitant to fire. I think it was mispositioned there a little bit. Yeah, those starlights do manage to get the kill there. Nicely done, shutting down that T1 front line and making it real difficult to stay in that fight here. T2 bombers coming in. Oh, looks like they're going to go after the advanced fusion reactor that was about halfway done. 57% of the way done. Shutting that down. Not the, well, not entirely. Yeah, these bombers are a little bit confused, it looks like. They don't have the surety of exactly where they should be heading. Cleaned up for the most part by the red and yellow player. But for the time being, it's going to grant the blue team complete complete aerial supremacy, rather. They already have complete naval supremacy, but complete aerial supremacy as well, as their fighter numbers are now just significantly higher. Whole bunch of roughnecks out. Those are nice for cleaning up little batches of units or big singular units, right? You can go target down 1 or 2 units. Is there a good place to use them, though? I mean, once you lose all your fighters and you know that your enemy has a ton, it's really uncomfortable to push those roughnecks out there, because you know that if a bunch of T2 fighters jump on them, they'll go down super quickly. Always a tricky judgment. The mammoth walk. The march of the mammoths. The mammoth conga line, if you will. Oh, all right. Well, maybe a little bit early, but understandably so. The red team decides that their front lines are broken and there's not really any way for them to keep up with the pressure, the overwhelming economic advantage from the blue team, and they decide to tap out of this game, meaning that the blue team snatches up victory in this Beyond All Reason match. Thanks a ton for watching. I sure hope you enjoyed. Sorry about the little bit of an interruption there. More of an interruption for me than for you, if anything. But you know, things happen. Anyways, I will see you in the very next Beyond All Reason video. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Peace out.